Hey everyone, Women's History Month is right around the corner, and if you are a kindergarten, first grade, or second grade teacher, then I wanted to go ahead and share a few picture books that I think your students will really love. I have 4 different books I want to share, and only choosing 4 books was a difficult task, so I really went through and picked up my absolute favorites, and I'm going to share a little bit about each book and why I chose it for this video. Now, I know there are way more than 4 Women's History Month books, but I want you to go ahead and after you watch this video, drop some of your favorites that I didn't mention down in the comments below so we can get a good list going for other teachers to check out. In case you are new here, my name is Susan Jones. I am a former first grade and K-2 literacy teacher who really spends a lot of time blogging over at Susan Jones Teaching, sharing ideas here on YouTube, and running my 2 monthly memberships, a math membership called the SJT Math Club and my writing membership called the SJT Writing Club. Both of those are monthly memberships where I spend a lot of time with K-2 teachers, just sharing tips, ideas, and activities that you can take and use in your classroom right away. Now that you know who I am, let's dive into those books. All right, book number 1 that I want to share, I'm going to start it off with a bang. This is my absolute favorite of the 4 I'm going to share today, and it is called Shaking Things Up by Susan Hood, and it's about 14 young women who change the world. Now, what's cool about this book is there is a timeline at the front that talks about all 14 women and kind of shows where they lived in terms of, time periods, of course. And then for each of these amazing women, it has a poem that was written kind of about their life. So here is Molly Williams, the first known firefighter, the first known female firefighter, and it has beautiful illustrations, which were all done by different women illustrators too. So this entire book is set up in a way that is just all about women empowerment. We have Nellie Bly, we have Annette Kellerman, she was an athlete and the inventor of the modern swimsuit. There are so many amazing women here, and really this book is a great, kind of starting off point, and you could go deeper into any of these women and their stories and hear about how they changed things. I also really love that throughout this book you have women of all different cultures and ethnicities who are all kind of breaking barriers in their own way. I found this one a few years ago, and like I said, it is my favorite. It is just such a great one with the poetry, the illustrations, and then learning about each of these women is just remarkable. All right, the second book I want to share actually goes a little more in depth about one of the young women that was mentioned in the last book, and this book is called Mae Among the Stars. It is written by Rhoda Ahmed, and this book is about the astronaut Mae Jemison, and she was the first Black female astronaut to ever go into space. Now, what I absolutely love about this book and many of the other ones I'm going to share today is that it focuses on Mae when she was younger, when she was a child. So she always was interested in space and she wanted to be an astronaut. And then one day at school, her teacher asks them all to share what they want to be when they grow up. And some people want to be firefighters, teachers, football players. One girl wants to be a mother. And Mae says, I want to go to space. I want to be an astronaut. But the teacher kind of thought that was a wild idea and told her, no, you should be a nurse. That would be a good profession for someone like you. And she was like, no, I don't want to. So when she goes home, her mom and her dad, they really encourage her and let her know that you can be anything that you dream of. She says, if I can dream it, I can believe in it. And if I work hard for it, anything is possible. And we all know by the end of the story that Mae Jemison did just that. She worked really hard and she was able to go into space. As much as I love reading different biographies about all these amazing women and other people in history, I do like when I can find a story that kind of puts the perspective into the child's point of view and that person when they were younger. This way your students can just relate really easily to what that is like, and they can really envision themselves as they get older, putting in the hard work and making their dreams come true. All right, the next book I'm going to share is one that I actually would always share at the end of the year. During the end of the year, I would always do kind of themed days for like the last couple weeks of school, and one whole day would be a sports day. So we would do reading around sports, we would do all sorts of math activities, science experiments, everything around sports. And this book right here, Wilma Unlimited, is one that I would read to my students because it's kind of atypical in the sports world. I really liked to read this one because I feel like my students are very familiar with football, basketball, soccer, kind of the main team sports, and this one focuses on Wilma Rudolph, who was a famous track star. Now, just like in Mae Among the Stars, the story starts with Wilma as a young girl, and you actually find out pretty quickly on that she has polio. And so Wilma's story takes place a long time ago when she was born, and there was no cure to polio. Naturally, Wilma is very discouraged as she has trouble walking, and realistically, all of her friends are, playing other sports and doing things that she just cannot do. Until one day she decides, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore, and she just started moving one foot in front of the other. She would practice walking and moving all the time until finally she was able to walk on her own. More so than that, she actually started playing sports and she was able to run. When Wilma went to college, she was playing basketball and one of her coaches decided she was perfect for the track and field team. Despite all of the things Wilma had to work through, she was actually such a fast runner that she was going to represent the United States in the Olympic Games in 1960. I always talk to my students about the fact that she was a sprinter, and I like to show some videos of people sprinting as fast as they can. I find that they can really relate because I don't know how often you see this, but I see many of my students, both boys and girls, always racing on the playground yard to see how fast they can possibly run. And this was quite an accomplishment for Wilma, and she ended up winning the Olympic gold medal. Not only did she win 1 gold medal during the Olympics, but she actually won 3, and she was officially the fastest woman in the world at that time, which is again even more remarkable when you know Wilma's backstory when she was a child. Now, I do truly love this story, but there is another one about Wilma Rudolph that I think is worth mentioning. I'll put a picture of it right here, and it is called The Quickest Kid in Clarksville. Like I said, it's also about Wilma Rudolph, and I think it takes place a little bit earlier in her life, or at least it spends more time in her young early childhood that your students might be able to relate to. Now, full disclosure, I have not read that one yet, but I did read the reviews and it sounds great. All right, the fourth and final book I want to share for Women's History Month is called Here Come the Girl Scouts. And this is a true story. It is written by Shayna Corey, and it is about Juliette Gordon Lowe, or Daisy as her friends and family called her. I particularly like this book if you have a bunch of students or girls in your classroom that are part of the Girl Scouts. It is a really fun and interesting way to learn about how they came to be. Now, Juliette, or Daisy as everybody called her, was born in the 1800s, so it was set a long time ago. And it's interesting to hear about how during that time, women and young girls were supposed to be prim and proper and, have tea parties. There were all sorts of things that these kind of rules that girls were supposed to abide by. But Daisy didn't want to do any of that. Daisy wanted to go outside. She wanted to run. She wanted to hang from trees. She wanted to go hiking, build fires. She didn't understand why boys were allowed to do things and she wasn't able to. As she grew up, it became her main mission, and that is how she founded the Girl Scouts, who believed in adventure and helping others. And as I mentioned earlier, you might have some girls in your own class who are also part of the Girl Scouts, so just hearing this story really helps them make some connections. As she grew older, she kept this mindset, and she ended up founding the Girl Scouts, as you know it now, as a way for girls to work together, to be adventurous, and to give back. As you well know, the Girl Scouts is still here today, and like I said earlier, if you have any students in your class that are Girl Scouts, or even some of the Boy Scouts, they still might be very interested in hearing this story and hearing how Daisy broke some barriers. Onto the outro. There you have 4 of my favorite books to read to K-2 students around Women's History Month. Now, just like with Black History Month, you do not need to save these books and only use them during a certain month. These books are great ones to use throughout the year. But if you are spending a little more time to focus on important women in history, this might be a good month to pull out any of these books. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but if you have other books that you love that share all about important women in history, please drop them down in the comments. I love when we can get a nice list going and use it as a good resource for other teachers that are viewing this video. I'm gonna go ahead and drop a couple other ones I love down in the comments too. And if you see a book that someone already mentioned down there that you love, go ahead and give that comment a little like. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of all my new videos. See you next time. Bye.